Welcome to T21Mom.
Hi friends, it's your friend Mary, and welcome back to the T21Mom podcast. And this is episode 157. And summer is officially in full swing. And drum roll, please. We're about to head to Italy. I am so excited. I love traveling. I love making memories. And I also know that traveling with a child with Down syndrome, or any disability for that matter, can feel really intimidating. So today I thought I'd share some of the things, I've learned over the past few years. Hopefully it'll make your next adventure feel a little less overwhelming and a whole lot more exciting. But first, let's catch up. Ainsley has officially finished grade 8 and is heading back to high school into grade 9. How did that happen? High school has definitely been a different experience than elementary school. Instead of having one EA like she did in elementary school, she now has several. So I don't know them nearly as well, but she absolutely loves the staff, and the students in her access program seem to really enjoy having her around too, which makes this mama's heart happy. And in early June, I hosted my second annual T21Mom Mingler, an afternoon just for moms who are raising their kids with a dual diagnosis of Down syndrome and autism. And honestly, it filled my cup. I asked every mom to bring a few stems of her favorite flower. And by the time everyone arrived, the room looked like a flower shop had exploded in the very best way. Before everyone left, each mom created her own bouquet. So she literally took home a little piece of everyone who was there. And the flowers just all looked amazing and they smelled awesome. It was just, I just loved it. It was so wonderful. And I loved that each mom could go and pick whatever she wanted. It was just so much fun. And this year I did something a little different. I also had each mom write, if they wanted to, an anonymous note of encouragement or love to another mom. And it was really powerful watching the moms sit and write their notes. And I really appreciated my note, and I hope the mama who got mine, I hope that she really appreciated hers too. It just felt really uplifting and really special. And of course, I couldn't have done it without two of my best friends, Jill and Christine. Christine helped last year, and along with my friend Marcy, but Marcy couldn't come this year. And they just jumped in to help with everything. And apparently next year, Christine's sister has already volunteered. So clearly word is getting around, which is wonderful. And it just makes the day go by so smoothly and so nice because I don't have to worry. I just have to set everything up and they kind of keep everything flowing. It was such a lovely afternoon, and it was just a really beautiful day, filled with wine, snacks, laughter, understanding, and just that really wonderful feeling of realizing, these mamas, they get it. They get me and they get my journey. And then last weekend, we hosted I think it's our 5th annual Ups and Downs BBQ. Now, we had been an online Zoom support group since COVID, actually. And, we were meeting weekly, I think for initially 8 weeks. And then it went to monthly, and we're still going strong. A number of people have dropped off over the years, but other people have joined in, which is really awesome. And, and this year, when you've invited almost 50 people and, the weather app says there's a 50% chance of rain, I was checking almost every hour, like as if that was going to somehow magically change the forecast. But thankfully, the weather cooperated. It wasn't super sunny, but it was warm, a little bit overcast, but it was still a great day. And in the end, 41 people came and we had an absolute blast. Our friend Cheryl, she deserves a medal. She's the queen because she filled just under 500 water balloons. 500. I am not joking. It really was 500, or close to anyways. And so, of course, we had a massive water balloon fight and lots of people got wet, and that's okay, including myself. Dennis opted to stay inside and watch the soccer game. And we had burgers, hot dogs. I had my cookie buffet, and there was lots of great food and lots of laughs. And honestly, I think the adults had just as much fun as the kids. We had a little pool and it was pretty cold, but I think almost all of the kids got in at some point. Easily kind of went in, walked around, and then got out because it really was pretty cool because we had just filled it up the night before. So yeah, it was a tad cool, but it was still so much fun. And now, Italy. This will actually be our third big European adventure in 3 years. We survived Paris. We conquered Prague. Now it's time to see what Italy has in store for us. And one of my friends, we call her fangirl Amy, is getting ready to fly to California and recently asked me for travel tips. So I thought, well, why not just share them with everyone? So here are my favorite tips for traveling with your rockin' kiddo, because I know it can be a little bit daunting, especially when you're going on an airplane and just kind of wondering how it's all going to work and if your kid is going to, be good. So tip number 1, don't be afraid to travel. Seriously. I know it feels overwhelming, and I know flying can be stressful. I know you're probably imagining every possible thing that could go wrong. I've been there. But honestly, don't let fear stop you from making incredible memories. Look for disability services. Many airports now have programs that make traveling with your kiddo a lot easier. At our airport, there's what's called the Sunflower Lanyard Program, which lets airport staff know that someone has a disability. So the disability could either be a visible or invisible disability. And it actually started for kids with autism because that can be an invisible disability. But you wear the lanyard and they know that someone in your party needs assistance. And the first time we used it was on our trip to Paris. And the moment staff saw Ainsley's lanyard, they were amazing. They helped with her stroller. It was like she was a Clear England, honestly. They boarded us early and gave us time to get settled before everyone else came rushing on to the plane. It just made such a difference. Number 2, expect the unexpected. For example, when we flew to Paris, Dennis spent almost the entire flight battling horrific motion sickness. I think it was like an 8 or 9 hour flight, and he was pretty much sick for the entire time. And let's just say the flight attendants got to know him really well. So now he double doses on Gravol, which in the US is called Dramamine. And yes, it basically knocks him out for the flight. So I'm the one who's in charge. And honestly, it's not the worst side effect. So it's fine. And as for Ainsley, I packed the iPad thinking she'd happily watch her shows for hours. Nope. Instead, the first part of the flight included, let's call it, some enthusiastic vocal opinions about air travel. Eventually she settled, but it reminded me that kids don't always follow our carefully crafted travel plans. Tip number 3, snacks, then more snacks. I can't stress this enough. Bring snacks, then pack more snacks, and then throw in a few emergency snacks. Hangry is universal, whether you're 13 or 43. And if your child will wear headphones, Ainsley will not, make sure they're Bluetooth compatible if your airline supports it. So they can either watch the airport TV, or they can stream their iPad to their headphones. Unfortunately, Ainsley won't wear headphones, and she stopped wearing her hearing aids, so we can't stream her iPad to her. We just kind of keep it really, really low. And I kind of learned the hard way that my AirPods wouldn't connect to the in-flight entertainment system last year. So this year, I'm bringing the old-fashioned wired headphones that I got on some previous flights because I think those will work. So sometimes old technology will win. And also, save yourself some money. I think when we flew to Paris, we had paid for the airplane Wi-Fi so you could get internet, and it never worked. And we just learned, just download. I bought a subscription to YouTube, and I just downloaded a whole bunch of her videos that she could play. So it just made it so much easier. Or any subscription that you have, just download the episodes that your kid can watch them. It makes it way easier for everyone. And this year, we're also going to try a medication that may help Ainsley sleep. It makes you a little bit groggy and helps to reduce some anxiety. I don't know she was necessarily anxious about the flights previously. It's just they're long, you're stuck in a seat, it's hard at the best of times. So I'm just really hoping it will help to relax her a bit more and hopefully get her to sleep for at least a little bit, because, we usually end up being out for almost 30 hours by the time we end up going to bed. It's a long, long day. So, but we will test it before we go. And actually, we did test it last night, and it worked okay. It has a faster effect than some other medication that she takes for sleep. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll work when we're up at 35,000 feet. So definitely don't make your trial run at 35,000 feet. Try it beforehand if you're going to try something to help your child, either to sleep or relax or whatever it is. Number 4, bathroom backup plans. Even though Ainsley is fully toilet trained, flying still kind of makes me nervous. What if the seatbelt light is on and we can't get up? Or what if there's a line up? Or what if we just don't make it in time? And one solution that I tried last year was period underwear with a liner. And it's simple, it's discreet, and it gives everyone a little peace of mind, because, she had a little bit of an accident last year, but it was really just very minor. And I just switched out the liner and it was great. So I didn't have to change clothes or anything. But of course, I always pack extra clothes because it's a long flight. So you don't want to be stuck at 35,000 feet without extra clothes. And number 5, don't panic if nobody sleeps. Both on our Paris and Prague trips, Ainsley, like I said, didn't sleep at all. And it was around 30 hours that she was awake. 30 hours. Meanwhile, I'm looking like I desperately need a coffee, but somehow she managed surprisingly well, I have to say. I mean, by the time we got to dinner in Prague, I think we were pushing the 30 hours at that point, and she wasn't very happy. She had her head on the table and she was throwing her glasses and stuff. But, we ate dinner quickly, and then as soon as we got back to our apartment, she crashed. And as for jet lag, I never seem to get it. I just adjust immediately to the time zone that we're in. And, if it's 6 p.m. in Vancouver time, but really it's 10 o'clock there or whatever time it is, I will go to bed. And I find that totally helps me with the jet lag. And I also do try to sleep on the plane, but I haven't been able to do that with the past 2 flights with Ainsley. So, but maybe this time we'll see. And Something that my sister-in-law swears by is taking off your shoes and standing barefoot on the earth as soon as you arrive, as soon as you can possibly do it, do it. And apparently it helps to reset your body clock. It's like a grounding. I've personally never tried it, but a couple of my friends have done it and they swear that it works. So, give it a try. Tip number 6, bring the stroller. Even if your child can walk, if you're planning lots of sightseeing, save everyone's energy. There is nothing worse than the old drop and flop that our kids are famous for. And who wants to be stuck with that in the middle of some busy tourist city? I don't. And we have a Convey stroller, and it has been amazing. And it handled Prague's cobblestones like a champ. Honestly, Dennis navigated it so well. I was worried about myself doing a header, but no one fell, thankfully. We all survived. But it was a little tricky in some spots, but Dennis navigated it beautifully. And yes, there are moments when Ainsley reminds us exactly why we brought it. Like the day that we went to the water slides. I said to Dennis, we have to walk to the bus. We can't take the stroller because where are we going to put it when we're there? And she was so mad that we expected her to walk all the way to the bus stop. I think it was 2 blocks, and there weren't long blocks, instead of taking her stroller. The horror of it was quite funny now that I think about it. And number 7, build the trip around everyone. Every vacation should have something everyone enjoys. For Ainsley in Prague, the giant zoo was a huge hit, and so was the massive water park. Although there was one slide where I did completely lose her. It was the longest slide that started inside and goes outside. I didn't lose her permanently, but it was a little scary. I couldn't keep a hold of her, and there is this area where it sort of slows down, but I had lost my grip on her. And then there was sort of like a little kind of wading pool to the side, and she ended up in that, but I didn't know that at the time. And I couldn't get to her. And so I kept going, and it wasn't far to the next spot where you could stop, because there was a kind of a ledge that you had to actually physically go over to get to the rest of the slide. But Dennis was right after us, and I kept waiting for him. I'm seeing all these people come down, and I'm thinking, where is Ainsley? And I was starting to panic. And because I was thinking, how am I going to get back to where she is? Because there wasn't an access to that spot unless you go back down the slide. But thankfully, I finally saw Dennis with Ainsley. I thought, oh, thank God. He said he sort of stopped at the same spot, and he looked over, and there was Ainsley. He grabbed her, and they carried on. So needless to say, that was our last slide of the day. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, but it was a little scary at that point. And we also rented paddle boats. My friend Kim had recommended that, and we were just out on the water for an hour, and it was a lot of fun. We lost Ainsley's popper in the water. We thought we could get it on the way back, but it was gone. And they also had a paddle-up bar, so I guess only in Europe. And it was a really lovely afternoon. It was great. And tip number 8, I always pack a small first aid kit. Mine always includes Band-Aids, polysporin, eardrops, and extra parts for Ainsley's glasses. Because if you've ever had glasses destroyed while on vacation, you're kind of, out of luck. So I also use packing cubes, and I roll all our clothes, and somehow I still overpack every single year. But this year I'm really determined to pack a little bit lighter. We'll see how it goes, and I'll fill you in next time on how that went. And my biggest travel tip is don't try to see everything. Slow down, leave room for spontaneity, enjoy the local food. Sit in the piazza, eat the gelato, which we plan on doing lots of. and just watch people. Sometimes I find those are kind of the moments you'll remember the most. Like, I think one of my most memorable moments in Prague, I mean, we had a fantastic time, it was our last night in Prague. And in the little tour guide that we had, it recommended to go and watch the sunset, which turns out it was in a park very near where we were staying. And we went there and there was lots and lots of people there, and you could have wine or beer, like you could openly drink there. And we just kind of laid there and just really enjoyed the sun setting. And it was just a beautiful evening. And it was like the perfect end to our trip. And I have some really lovely pictures from that evening. And it always, reminds me of that time. And it was just a really great way to end our last in Prague. And one thing I've discovered while planning our time in Italy is that many attractions offer free admissions for a person with a disability and one caregiver. I know here our access pass just allows the caregiver in for free, not the person with the disability. You still have to pay for them. So I think that's a pretty incredible bonus. It's been a little bit tricky to sort of arrange it. I haven't got it arranged for every attraction, but I think in Florence will probably be okay. I didn't do it in Rome because I ended up booking a lot of our things through like a tour agency, like Viator, and it's not up to them to decide whether we get in for free. They're just there to sell tickets, right? But for example, though, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, I saw, I think on their website somewhere that they allow people in with a disability for free and a caregiver. So they just asked for some documentation. So I sent a copy of Ainsley's disability tax credit paperwork that had been signed by her pediatrician, and it also indicated her diagnosis. So I sent that, and it was easy. And others are suggested just to simply bring our access pass. And so I'll do that. And, in a lot of ways, having a visible disability makes it a little bit easier. So hopefully we won't have too many issues. I did buy one ticket to each of the attractions, and hopefully they'll just let us in for free. This is my hope. We'll say we came all the way from Canada. I think it'll be fine. And another one last thing is hydration, especially in hot countries like Italy. It's been very, very hot there the last little while, and I'm a little bit nervous. Our kids can have a harder time regulating their body temperature in the heat. So we learned in Paris to freeze water in bottles beforehand. And that worked incredibly well because it'll just melt during the day, but it keeps the water nice and cold. And so it's actually really refreshing. And so we will definitely be doing that again when we're in Italy. And like I said at the beginning, at the end of the day, don't let fear stop you from traveling. Will everything go perfectly? Absolutely not. Will there be meltdowns? Yeah, probably. Will someone forget something important? Probably, as long as it's not your passports. And will there be moments that make you laugh years later? 100%. I've learned that travel it isn't about perfection. It's really about making memories. Our trip to Paris, especially for the Olympics, and Prague gave our family like memories that we'll treasure forever. And I'm really hoping that Italy joins that list. Dennis, he says he would never leave Burnaby if it weren't for me. He's quite an introvert and a homebody, and he's quite happy just staying at home. But I really want to see the world, and I want Ainsley to experience that too. And it's just so much fun. Yeah, it takes a lot of planning, but I just find that it's just so worth it. So, until next time, friends, go make some memories, love on your kiddos and just do it. You don't have to do a big trip like to Europe or whatever, but, it could just be to a lake that's a few hours away or something like that, or camping. I haven't been camping with Ainsley for a very long time. I do kind of miss that. I mean, I went with her as a baby a few times. I mean, in some ways that was almost easier, but there's so many things you can do. It doesn't have to be an expensive vacation, but it's just time to get away. And I mean, I know our time in Italy, it's going to be busy. It's not going to be super relaxing, but I didn't schedule something for every day. It was kind of worked out to be kind of every other day. And I'm totally okay with that. And I just want to enjoy it and eat all the pasta and the gelato and just soak it all in and, drink wine on the plazas and just love every minute of it. So remember, friends, I see you, I hear you, and I love you. So keep on loving on your rockin' kiddos, and I'll see you next time.